So, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a guest in our Tax Stories podcast, Tomasz Michalik from Poland, from Polish firm MDDP. Tomasz is named partner of this firm. You've been with the firm already for 17 years. Uh, I did some background check about you that you are among two Band 1 tax lawyers by Chambers Europe. So you can imagine how many tax lawyers are in Poland, and Tomasz is among two of the best regarded tax lawyers. So I'm very privileged to have you in today's show. I can see that you were 11 years with EY before joining the MDDP, and MDDP itself is a top tier firm, and actually by all the categories, by international tax review standards and rankings. So if we don't count Big Four, so I can say that one of the best Polish firms with one of the best Polish tax lawyers. So we are really privileged to have you here in our today's show. I know that you are specialized in VAT, so that's probably in your heart. And I can see that congratulations, you have a big event. You are an author of just from the print book on commentaries to Polish VAT. So the book seems to be very thick, around at least 1,000 pages. Did you manage it all by yourself, or tell about the creation of this book?
Oh, yes. Well, thank you, Yanis, for all those nice words. And I must say that I really feel the pressure now. Regarding the book, yes, it was I've started actually this book something like 20 years ago when the publication and the editors just came to me and asked whether, after some articles and the publications, conferences, whether I would be willing to think about the commentary. There were not that many commentaries on the VAT in Poland those days. So I thought that, well, why not? Let's think about this. And then it appeared that it's quite a. I just found out that I didn't realize the magnitude of the work. So actually, this is the publication that I've started some time ago. I had to completely rewrite it after 2004 when we joined EU and brand new VAT law has been published. And since then, it is the 16th edition, revised and updated. I just found out, Yanis, that the revision and updating is far more time consuming than just writing from the very beginning, because you need to go through everything and make the cross reference to everything. And actually, I'm doing this on my own, just taking the you might say the standard that if I'm signing something, that I'm just writing this in order to sign more or less. So yes, it's fun in a way. That sometimes
Probably it's something in your heart if you have written such an extensive commentary. Do you and there's no end to the changes. Changes are coming.
There's no end. I think we are somewhere in the middle of the road, even though you don't you cannot know when there's the end of this road. But that's true.
Yeah. Did you already write about the new changes coming from 1st of July?
Oh, there's the very difficult issue, because of course, I mean, there's quite major changes that comes out on the 1st of July with all the new VAT e-commerce package that will change, and hopefully it will change a lot. in the taxation of e-commerce. But the problem is that we in Poland used to, as a matter of fact, to implement the rules at the very last day, at the very last moment, you may say. So I know how it sounds, but this is the late May. The revolutionary, you may say, changes are to be introduced as from the 1st July, and our draft of the legislation is still in the parliament. Probably today, the lower chamber will finish its work, and maybe higher chamber will be able, if they will be politically willing to do so, will be able to complete the works late June, but maybe not. And actually, no one really knows what will happen if Poland will become one, probably one and only member state who will not introduce the package on time. So you may understand that the taxpayers, the companies, those who will be affected, are quite nervous now.
No, wow. This is a really challenge for businesses how to prepare for 1st of July, because the changes are huge coming from 1st of July in e-commerce. Who is actually first writing commentaries? Is it the tax authorities following you, or you following tax authorities?
Oh, that's what we'll see. Apparently, in the regarding e-commerce, probably I'm the first, because of the publication has been the issue just regarding of course the EU legislation. Now you can hardly comment on the draft of the Polish legislation, as you never know actually what will be the final text. So yeah, well, why not? Maybe this would be the time that they will follow the commentaries.
How would you comment to our listeners in few sentences what will happen in 1st of July for both people and for consumers and for businesses?
Oh, it's so difficult to describe it in a few sentences, but let us just point out probably the most important elements. So first is that there's the equal, that's what we expect. There's an equal treatment, tax treatment of the suppliers supplying the goods from outside EU and those who are supplying the same or similar goods in the EU. And this was quite a major difficulty, because we're observing, the professionals as well as tax authorities, that especially in the last years, the amount, the magnitude of the goods being supplied from especially Far East, but not just Far East, also from states and from Russia to the EU, were increasing rapidly. And the thing is, because most of the member states were using this specific exemption for the small value items, a lot of those goods were declared as the small value items, even though some of them, maybe most of them, were not actually to be considered as small value item, but it was extremely difficult to catch and to make a proper system of analyzing the values, the goods that are being imported in the small parcels, quite obviously difficult. So now we'll have the rules which we all trust will stop the situation where those suppliers are actually taking this sort of the competitive advantage by just not declaring the taxes in the EU. So this should be over. Would it mean that the prices of the supplies will increase for the consumers? It may be. But probably we need to just accept the fact that if the goods are to be taxed, they should be taxed. And there's no reason why we should, as the EU citizens, accept, as a matter of fact, that our, European suppliers may go bankrupt just because we, the consumers, accept the fact that the suppliers from outside the EU are supplying the goods without being taxed. This is one thing that is important for the consumers. This is very important for the European retailers and suppliers. And the other change, I think that is quite fundamental, is the change that applies to the electronic interfaces or the platforms, the internet platforms, who are not actually in strict sense buying and selling the goods, but are to be treated by the seen as the deemed buyer and a supplier. So which is quite a major change. And I must say that this is where our concern is the higher when it comes to the lack of implementation of the new law in Poland, because how can you treat such an interface, such a platform, as the supplier if you do not have the specific law which applies this the legal fiction? So we, as the probably we may say that we as a tax lawyers, tax advisors, look at it with I would say high intellectually high interest, but the platforms as such, you may understand that they are quite scared and nervous on what might happen if this would not happen, if the implementation would not take place. But so the changes are major. The effects of the changes are that we are looking at are very important, and I would say the most critical element of the changes is whether the auditing systems, the level of control, the cooperation between member states and the member states administrations, of course, will prove to be proper and reliable. Because as we could see in the past, as we remember the mini one-stop shop system, we all remember there were several companies that were supplying some electronic services, for example, to the consumers in the other member states, and the system was working, but actually no one could really say whether it was working properly or not, because there was no real accepted by everyone mechanism of auditing, whether the Polish tax office could truly audit German supplier, or German supplier whether could truly German tax authority whether could truly audit the, say, Spanish supplier of services, where the Spanish supplier was supposed to pay German tax. That's what we really don't know, whether it was properly working, because such audits were extremely rare. And now this system will expand to the e-commerce, so it will be as good as the member states administration will properly cooperate, and the model of auditing, controlling the VAT settlements will be set and will be commonly accepted. That's a huge change, and there will be a very interesting experience from the member states' perspective.
Mm. Although the aim of these changes is simplification and also collection of revenues from third countries who presumably didn't pay enough VAT in European Union for their online trading to European Union. I can imagine it was a challenge to explain VAT system and how VAT works for Americans, Chinese, and now for these e-commerce changes, it will be even maybe sometimes more difficult to explain them. Do you expect, as a firm partner, especially in VAT sector, a growth of your practice regarding all those VAT e-commerce changes?
Absolutely. That's what we see actually since 2004. when we started that that our VAT practice, and not just our VAT practice, but also the VAT practices of other tax advisory firms in Poland are growing and are changing also. There's a lot of tax disputes with the authorities. Sometimes when I'm talking to my colleagues from other countries, they are quite surprised that there's that many tax litigation or VAT litigation in Poland. But as a matter of fact, it is how it is to a certain extent. That it looks, for example, that the tax courts are challenging more than 50% of the final tax decisions, which actually means that this is a sort of the increasing of the attraction of actually challenging the tax office decision, and more companies are just considering this as the natural consequence of the argument with the tax authorities not to accept the final decision, to challenge this final decision, and to find out whether the court will finally verify this. So it's how it works in Poland. And then you have this lot of changes like this: e-commerce, quick fixes, new rules on the community transactions, some new developments resulting from the judgments of the Court of Justice, like on this transportation, for example, one of the most important judgment, or the vouchers and fuel cards. As we discuss this and discuss the fuel cards issue, and it's one of those cases that probably will never end in a final result, which is one thing. And the other thing is, I think what is very important is a sort of automatization of the processes, where the clients are also changing, and this dynamics means that they require, say, more compliance work than the other type of works, and the more IT supported tools, solutions, just to fit to their systems and their needs, and I think, well, VAT will be developing as the area, because even though, as you have mentioned, it was supposed to be a simple tax, it's doesn't sound like the most extremely simple tax, and probably nothing will change in this respect in the future.
Yeah, and in that regard,
so the future for the VAT specialists, I think, is bright.
and for tax lawyers.
And for the tax lawyers.
Yeah. And in that regard, I wanted to ask, and you already touched upon it, about automation plans in your firm. Do you see any automation also coming from this e-commerce registration of those third country traders, or some other automation plans in your company?
Starting from the most simple, like if you are the trader who's supplying goods to the consumers in the other member states, you need to follow the VAT rates, as of course you are supposed to use. Depends on the member state law. You need to use your own invoicing regulation, but you need to apply the VAT rates of the other country, and the rates are rates. We have difficulties with the rates because you can hardly get the final information about the rates. You can get it from the different sources. Commission has published quite recently pretty good tool to check the rates. But if you are the retailer that are supplying a lot of, say, food products, for example, and sometimes in some member states there are such a small differences, whether the coffee of certain type is subject to the reduced rate or is not subject to a reduced rate. Sometimes the difference is very small and is quite specific to a member state. So we are trying to give to the clients, for example, the tool that would allow to check the currently applied VAT rates in all member states, which is not easy in the say last stage of development to go in this way. But just an example, such a tool for the retailers who are offering a lot of products to many countries is something that is being needed, just to make it, simple and easy check. When you put this the good to the parcel, you're checking what is the VAT rate in Malta or Latvia or Germany. Then you need to be sure, or as much certain as possible, that you are applying the proper rate in Germany, Malta, or Latvia. Such a tool allows to save quite a lot of time. This is what we can see, and this comes actually from the fact that we have been discussing a lot with our clients what they see as the major difficulty or obstacle in this new rules of the VAT industry. Plus, naturally, the one-stop shop registration with all this, say, automation of the settlements, the evidencing, etc., etc. We've started some time ago when we found out that actually the fact that we have in Poland the rules are getting, or some technicalities were changed, and for example we are using the safety for the VAT return, that the communication with the tax authorities are more developed and more automatized. So we think that in the future it will just be more and more automatized, less and less human factor in the providing of services. I think sooner or later will be just we as the tax lawyers will become a sort of the assistants to the IT specialists or just to the computers.
Yeah. It's fascinating to see how taxes also will merge with IT business, and let's see how it develops. And actually, coffee is a very good example because there's not only VAT. Coffee is an optional subject to excise tax, and in some EU member states it is subject, and in some it's not. And these things the traders also need to follow closely all the developments.
Absolutely, because you may apply the simplified rules or not, if there's a subject to excise or not. And if you come from one country that, for example, it's obvious coffee is not excisable, therefore you don't even think that there may be some countries where actually this is subject to excise. But the coffee is also another good example. In Poland, this is not the current case, but years ago, the VAT rates were based on the statistical classification, and the statistical classification were not a classification for VAT purposes. It was just to have a statistics. So we were not using CN classification. We're using this, say, Polish statistical old, slightly updated year by year classification, and the coffee was subject to 23% to the standard rate of 22, now 23%. But one day, someone who was analyzing the declassification and was working for some coffee shops in the normal standard understanding of coffee shops. Someone found out apparently that actually, if you are applying the if you are considering the cappuccino or cafe latte based on the statistical classification, the drink of that nature is not a coffee, but it's actually a milk drink. because the amount of milk is higher than the amount of coffee in that drink, which means that you were able to apply the reduced rate, meaning 7% instead of 23%. And there's plenty of discussion. The case went to the court. The coffee shops all over the country started to sell coffee like espresso and milk drink like cappuccino, latte, etc., etc. And the case went to the court, and the court said, well, clearly it's relatively stupid because everyone knows that this is coffee. But if we are obliged to follow the statistical classification, the statistical rules means shows that actually how you define the drink is that the element of which element is bigger, well, in principle, whether it's a milk or coffee, and if this is that there's more milk than a coffee in the drink, then you apply the statistical classification, and you are able to apply the lower rate. So they've changed the law. They had to change the rules. They had to change the law in order to get rid of this pretty strange situation. But it shows that actually you would never, normally you would never say that cappuccino may be seen as the milk, as a matter of fact, but apparently it might be. And it was in Poland. Without knowing this, you would never say that it is not a coffee. So yes, there's a lot of peculiarities. There's a lot of specific issues, and the country also specific approach.
I read about the similar particularity in Poland about party cigars. Do you know it?
Party cigars. Yes, I was never involved, but the party cigars is something that is not to be treated as the cigars. Don't really certain why, but apparently the way of getting into this peculiarity is probably similar.
Yeah. I read that those cigars were excised with by counting number of cigars, and for that reason, in Poland they made some huge cigars, 35 centimeters long, and out of them used to make the smaller cigarettes afterwards.
That's right. That's wrong. There was the situation where the excise and the level of excise depend upon the length of the cigars.
Yeah.
So if you create this sort of rules, then you may reasonably expect that people will try to be creative simply.
Sure. But going back to this to this automation idea, I was just wondering for myself and also for our country in Latvia that my question is, do you see this automation possibility also in tax disputes? Because I was thinking that I can see that those smaller disputes where there are smaller amounts involved doesn't pay off to take an expensive tax lawyer to defend the case. But those are normal, sometimes quite important issues, and they don't get resolved in the taxpayer's way. This could create quite certain injustice, and for that reason I was thinking to either create some kind of charity foundation to support those who cannot pay for tax lawyers, or to do some automation for them. Do you see some movements in that direction in Poland?
No, not at all. I don't believe that this may happen in such a way. Although I would say that I fully agree that this is a major problem, that the people need to have a right to the code, and because first of all, the tax decisions sometimes when it becomes final might be executed, and therefore you may have a right to the code, you may go to the code, but sometimes you may lose your company before the hearing date will be set. What I was actually thinking, and also on the EU level, because we have a lot of Court of Justice verdicts, but what we do not have is any sort of dispute resolution mechanism between the member states. And the thing is a different thing, of course, I know, but the dispute resolution mechanism, where you may say a sort of arbitration, which would be a simpler arbitration than just the court proceedings, may be actually a sort of similar mechanism to the mechanism that could be applied to those situations that you refer to. Because normally you might say that, well, yes, we need to go to the, we do not agree with the tax office decision, and the tax office decision sometimes is quite often, as a matter of fact, in Poland is a copy paste of the old decision in different cases, sometimes without any, say, additional reflection on the differences. So we can, if we have the final decision, you can go to the court, and within 2 years or so, you may get a verdict. Now, and it costs. You're right. Now, the arbitration of any sort, like the arbitration that is being done not by the judges, not by the tax administration, quite obviously, but for some additional independent, accepted group of people having their authority, which authority is accepted by all the parties, could probably be a solution. But it's quite difficult because it's you need to live in a certain normal legal system, and you cannot really say that, well, okay, because you cannot afford the tax lawyer, for example, and you go to the arbitrage, and the arbitrage is not bound by the procedures as the other taxpayers who would just go to the court would be bound, then it may be quite, I guess, in practical terms, difficult. But you're right. Actually, this causes that the right to the court, which is one of the fundamental rights of the citizen, sometimes is quite artificial. I mean, formally you're entitled to, but in reality you cannot go because you cannot afford to, or you can't wait.
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about your firm, MDDP. You are named partner of this firm. Is there a story how the firm was created, and how did you decide to move from EY and set up a law firm? And what's the secret? Why is it so successful now in Poland?
There's a simple story, as a matter of fact. We were, most of us were working for, at the very beginning, for Ernst & Young for a certain period of time. I spent 11 years in Ernst & Young, being 8 years being a partner in charge of VAT, and my other colleagues who created MDDP were also the partners or senior managers in Ernst & Young. And then the merger came. Ernst & Young merged with Andersen, and everything has changed. In principle, let me not go into details, but it cost, in principle, that most of the Ernst & Young people decided to leave or just left. And we've decided as a group of partners at a certain moment of time that as long as we still have a contact with a group of people, as long as we think that we can do something together, and will not be distributed you might say, between the other firms, but we are still a group. Let's just try. And leave the Ernst & Young and start the independent firm. And we've started those at the very beginning. There were in 2004. There were 15 tax advisors from the very first day. So and we were quite afraid of what will happen, because in the past, for many years, there were in Poland, there were either big six, big five, big four companies, or relatively small family firms, or the other small few advisor firms in Warsaw and the other countries. The big law firms, they didn't really show any interest in any real interest in the tax advisor. So in this market, is the tax advisor market, there were either big four or small, up to 5, 6 maybe advisors firms. So when we've started with this 15 people, with the partner, ex-partners, ex-managers, ex-senior managers, it was quite, I must say, it was quite risky. I mean, from today's perspective, you might say it was the obvious decision, but no, those days. And we thought that, well, if you are working for the companies or the transaction deals from the first pages of the business dailies, and now we probably will start to work with the small shops around the corners, because they also require tax advisor. That's quite a change, but it didn't happen. And we've started with this, say, 14, 15 people from the very beginning, and then the company was growing. It actually became quite successful from the very first moment. We had our plans, like to become the alternative, or the fifth biggest, etc., in 5 years' time, or become the real alternative to the big four in 5 years' time. It became almost from the day one, maybe day two. So yeah, I would say it was, again, today I would say it was quite brave movement to run this way, just not to start with 1 or 2 people and start developing on the basis of this, but just to show to the market that, well, there's a 15 managers, partners, we know everything, we are almost, we are that good as big four, etc., etc., etc. Which we thought is true, by the way, and it worked. It worked. It was relatively soon. We've got a circle of the truly good, important clients. Most of them are with us still until today, and hopefully they will keep working with us, or we'll keep working with them also in the future. We're adding the new service lines. We're adding the law firm and the outsourcing firm and the educational firm, or the training the company. They were successful. We've made the mistakes as well, like the audit was maybe not a mistake, but it was an interesting experience, which was not extremely successful. So we've decided not to keep audits with us. Business consulting was not extremely successful, but the outsourcing business is a real success. So we're working with the same group of people, more or less, as partners, with the same group of managers, plus an extra, plus all those who were attracted by us in this period. And I would say it's quite fine. Now we are 120 tax advisors in total. So it is. As for the Polish market, is quite sizable organization.
That's huge. Let's switch the topic again a little bit. Let's talk about yourself. I'm I'm a passionate golf player, and now today is the first day of World Hockey Championship in
Oh,
Riga in Latvia. So they will have the first game against Canada today. So I guess in Poland. And now also I have a dilemma tonight whether to watch ice hockey or PGA Championship, one of the major golfing events in the world. But I can imagine in Poland the major sports is football, especially if Lewandowski is playing, right?
yeah. I would say that most of us would not have this dilemma whether PGA or ice hockey, as golf becomes more and more interesting. More and more people are become interested in playing golf. Ice hockey is not our sport. Probably we'll have this dilemma if there will be football versus volleyball.
Ah,
As in Poland, apparently this is either football or volleyball, which is the two top sporting games. And while most of us are in love with football, actually we are among the top three countries in volleyball. We are far better in volleyball. We like volleyball, but somehow still the most hearts beats for football.
but how do you recharge your batteries?
Typically I'm not playing ice hockey. I'm not playing football any longer. I used to play football for many years, but the weakness of football is that you need to find people who would like to play with you, not necessarily like in golf. So I'm actually playing a bit of tennis, skiing where possible, and cycling. This is not necessarily the very much PGA, very much golf or ice hockey related.
Yeah. I heard yesterday an interesting comparison between golf and tennis. You're playing tennis, I'm playing golf. That in 95% of occasions when somebody is playing golf, there will be a sort of disappointment and failure, and only 5% of cases there will be success. Whereas in tennis, it's quite opposite. That in 95%, if you are a good player, then you will win, and then only in some minor part of games you are losing. So
Oh, so that means that golf is more challenging and more for leaders, I guess, than tennis.
I
That's.
that's interesting. Yeah, I love golf, but
But I must say, Yanis, that's also the other side. When you enter a certain age, and this is my case, you started to face some orthopedic difficulties. I always thought that tennis is probably the most difficult if it comes to your spine. But my doctor said, no. I mean, you can play tennis. You cannot actually play in the way that you were playing when you were 20 years old, quite obviously. But he said that, well, the most clients I have with the spine problem, orthopedic spine problem, comes from golf. So watch yourself.
yeah, okay, I will. So far, so good. uh, Okay, I going back a couple of years when we were sitting together in Riga and drinking Riga Black Balsam after VAT expert group meeting we organized. Uh, uh, Continuing that discussion, how do you see your values, your personal values, matching your firm values? Do you think about what's the sort of what's the purpose of all this that you're doing?
If I would say to make the world better place to live, you probably will not trust my words. But well, as a matter of fact, I think it changes, Yanis, because of course, when we were younger, we were thinking about getting the personal success, meaning that you're making a career, you're making the contribution to the firm's success, and you get your own, say, personal good perception of between the clients and your competitors and the market as such. But I think to some extent it changes in a way. Of course, this is what I focus very much on, and the company is also promoting, is that and to have such a model that we care of a lot of things. We are very much involved in creating the legislation, the new legislation. We are supporting the business organizations. I mean, not just to fix something for someone, but just to create, to work on creating the better legislation. We're involved in 2020, which was a different year, quite obviously. We are involved in several legislative initiatives started by the business organizations, just to make the law simpler, not necessarily to make the taxes lower, because this is not the idea, rather, but to make the law simpler, clearer, to make it more effective, to make the obligations that are, say, more attractive, to put it this way, for the business, but still assuring that the revenues of the government are as expected. So we're working also sometimes with the Parliament. We are asked by the Minister of Finance to assist, support, etc., etc. And we think that this is important. That at certain moment of time, if you play, don't get me wrong, but if you play a certain role on the say fiscal environment of the country, which is a small, quite obviously, but if we can add something to make the legislation better, we're always trying to do so. So we are involved in quite a lot of activities. We think also that it is our, as one of the biggest, actually fifth biggest firm in this country, is our responsibility also to be involved in the works of the Association of the Tax Advisors in Poland. And we are involved. Our tax advisors used to be and still are in the boards of the Tax Advisor Association, just say supporting the activities, learning, education, and also working for the other change of the legislation. So I think at certain moment of time, at certain time of also your career, you somehow, and this is very important to me, that you try to actually use your experience, your knowledge, not just to create a bigger firm and to make the better profits, which are both still important, quite obviously, but also to share with the others, to assist, to help to make, in a way, this fiscal or VAT, but more broadly, fiscal Polish environment a slightly, at least, better place for the entrepreneurs, and we feel very strongly that we are supposed to do so. Simply, it's like the noblesse oblige in a way, and we are trying to do so. So, if you are talking about the values, this is very important. Also creating, quite obviously, our company being the good place to work, friendly, with all these important procedures, with all this code of ethics, internal, etc., etc., just to let people, our people, be certain that they are working in a, you might say, proper company that are making things right in a right way.
Yeah.
Such as small things.
I totally hear what you're saying. I probably am getting old as well, but I also feel that this is our mission, to our obligation to give back to society, and you're feeling actually good when, for example, yesterday one of the government political parties were consulting with us how to implement certain changes, and that gives wings. Also, I hope this podcast will give some ideas to somebody to do something useful.
Yeah, I think this is very important that to be involved.
Exactly. And at the end, do you have some tax story for me? I mean, either from your practice or from literature or from movies.
I was trying to find the stories, but there are so many things, so small stories, so not spectacular stories that I was I I was reading, I was listening to your other podcasts, obviously. Being a fan of your podcast.
Thanks.
And I must say that, I mean, it's a shame, of course, but I couldn't find any real story that could match the stories that I've heard in your podcast. That's
I
disappointing.
have a small story I found about Poland from the new book about history of taxation, different facts from history. I already mentioned that book in the previous episode. It's called Rebellion, Rascals, and Revenue by Michael Keane and Joel Slemrod, and it was interesting that it mentions that in Poland after World War II, the inflation rate was 4 times 10 with 16 zeros. So basically, the prices were doubling every 15 hours. And basically, it means that there was a good example that in a pub you may wish to take 2 drinks because the prices were expected to go up before the one gets to the second drink. so
Right. Yeah.
so
That
that's
was
interesting.
Yeah, there was difficult times, but I think there was also the stories in the 30s that actually when you're coming like in the place like in Germany to the restaurant, you couldn't be certain what will be the final price that you're paying because you were informed that actually the price is increasing when you're eating, so eat fast.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. And if we speak about books, I actually can share with you that I can see a nice library behind you also, and my father, when I asked him to recommend a book for me to read, he recommended a book by a Polish writer, Henryk Sienkiewicz.
Really?
Quo Vadis. Quo Vadis. The book is called Quo Vadis, and I absolutely adore and I can recommend to our listeners to read this book. This is fantastic book about ancient Rome, and I could really live in the ancient Rome because of this book, and I can feel that this author was like really having so much details about what those times, how this might all happen, and this is absolutely must read. I could say. Uh, Do you know this author? Is this the best book he has?
I would say no. Of course, everyone in Poland knows this author. Yes, actually, and he got the for Vadis. He got the Nobel Prize.
Right.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and it was they made in Hollywood. They made movie out of Vadis, but it was I think 50s or some time of this nature. So you can see in Poland actually this is not his most popular book. I mean he's a good storyteller. That's pretty clear. And actually one or maybe the one most popular right. But in Poland. The most his most important books actually is a sort of the so-called trilogy that are the also historic books that are based in the that are the action is in the 17th century, mid 17th century, when the Poland was in the middle of few wars coming one by another. And this was about this is about the well, a sort of the action story, you may say, as you would say today. He was writing this at a very difficult moment of the Polish history, when there was no, say, Poland as the existing as the independent country, and so in a way, this three stories. It is like the in English deluge, I think, with fire and sword. Like the black metal, you may even say, but it's about and the second is Wojciechowski, the name of the main character. And you may say that everyone, or you can maybe not necessarily in the youngest people nowadays, as they are reading probably something else, but in my generation, everyone knew every word, more or less, of this book. This is still a nice nice books. You can still read them with a real fun and become an enthusiast. Still, you need to remember that it was written in a late 19th century, meaning that some say political correctness of the current times approach is not necessarily the proper one. Good books, good stories.
Oh, very good. I will definitely have a look at this this trilogy, and also at this Hollywood movie of Quo Vadis, because it's really exciting to see it, how it is how it looks in the movie. So I guess we had really interesting conversation, at least for me. So thank you, Tomasz, from bottom of my heart. I traditionally end with one question, and we already touched upon actually that topic regarding your values. So I will rephrase this question a little bit different this time. That the last question is: if you win, let's say, 10 million euros in a lottery, what would you do now?
I will use it properly. To put it this way, I was afraid about this question because I would say that I will really I would try to use it in a way that is the proper way, meaning not necessarily to spend everything on books, because my first wish would be to spend everything on books, but probably it would not work in this amount. Will be more than enough to spend on something else than books, and use it in a right way. But this is always I'm the book enthusiast, and I would use as much as possible on the books, and also this is what we are also doing, is that we are financing book renting places in the smaller villages in Poland, because the availability is not that accessibility is not that high. So I'd be more than happy to increase our involvement in financing of such bookletting premises in a smaller places.
That's very inspiring idea. So thank you for sharing this. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tomasz, to talk to you.